Hi everyone, welcome to Cover Creations. My name's Gareth and this is my little corner of the internet, playing with my food. Today I'm going to make a paella. I love this one. Now paella for me, possibly one of my favourite ever dishes. And what I love about it is no matter where you go in Spain, you're always going to get something a bit different. You know, the difference between one based in sort of Barcelona and one out in Mallorca is just so different. And I really love that. So this is my kind of semi-seafood paella. And it's semi because we're going to put a couple of little ingredients that aren't seafood in there that just pack so much flavour into it. So we're going to crack on and we're going to start really simple. Usual bits, chop up an onion. So probably want one medium onion. And all we're going to do is we're going to dice that really small. You want that kind of a little bit bigger than your grains of rice. You don't want it to dominate, you want it to kind of mix through nicely. So let's crack on with this. Okay, so that's my onion nicely diced up. Now garlic. You're going to want about 3 cloves of garlic for this. Normally I'd add in a lot more garlic for things like this, but because we are going to use chorizo in this, and that comes with its own kind of like garlic flavour in there. So if you put in a bit too much, it just becomes kind of too garlicky. So 3 should do you fine. Brilliant. Garlic done. Now, red pepper. With this, it's kind of got that Spanish, it's all got the Spanish colours in it. And I love that. The idea that your food follows your flag. Kind of a bit harder here in England. There's not a lot of blue food. I imagine it's even worse for Scotland. But, you know, the red, white and blue doesn't work so well. So I love that whole idea, you know, yellow, red, perfect. It's in your food. It kind of really gives it this national identity, which is just so cool. So you're just going to chop up your pepper and you're going to cut this just into like little diced cubes. Probably 1 centimetre cubes will do. Brilliant. So that's that red pepper there. And that's going to give you all of those kind of basis for what you're going to make. Right, so now that bit's done, we can just pop that out of the way ready to cook later. And we can turn our attention to the chorizo. So you're going to want here about 150 grams of chorizo, which is going to be for this about 2/3 of this, probably about there. And then all we're going to do is we're going to skin that. So it will always have like this outside skin to it. Might have to do this in 2 bits. Avoid chopping my own fingers off. And then we can kind of pull off this kind of outer skin to it, like so. It should come off pretty easily. And the reason we do that is just because sometimes when you're cooking this with that skin on, it kind of deforms it, and I kind of like it to just stay in one piece. So we'll skin that, and then we'll chop that into kind of halves probably, and then into little slithers, you know, like little half moon shaped bits. So nothing massive, about that size, maybe 2 by 2 centimetre wise. So that's the chorizo all chopped up. Essentially now you should have everything you need, but I'm going to run through that seafood for you. So what I've got here is about 400 grams of kind of frozen seafood mix. So we've got squid, scallops and prawns in there, and those are like really work so well together. Things like if you get the seafood mixes with fish in, doesn't kind of work so well because the fish just cooks too quickly and it just flakes apart. Because this is quite a long, slow cook. This is really good for this. So yeah, frozen one and just defrost it. And then all I've got here is some really nice prawns, and really big chunky ones. Again, frozen from the local supermarket. I'm just going to devein them, but they're not 100% necessary. They're just going to add some really like lovely look to the top of it. Probably get about 2 prawns each. It just gives you something you can grab hold of and get kind of like a really nice super prawny flavour. If you are using whole prawns like this, to devein them, just get a sharp knife, slice down the back. What you're looking for is just that. There'd be a tiny little thing there, and you can just pull out essentially what is, it's not really, we always call it deveining, but it's not a vein. It's basically their intestines. So you'll see along the edge there, there's like a little gap, and sometimes there'll be a bit in there. These are actually pretty clean. Okay, so all you got to do now, grab whatever seafood you're using, just give it a nice pat dry. You don't need to be completely crazy about it. It doesn't need to be hair dried, but getting some of that extra water off will just help it cook a bit better. Once that's done, you just head straight over to the hob and get it all cooking up. Okay, so now we're over here, we can start putting this all together. So in a hot pan, I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then first thing, your chorizo. It's going to take the longest to cook. Just want to chuck that in, keep giving that a stir around, probably cook it 4 or 5 minutes. It's just going to get to that nice kind of like slightly crispy part. So just keep that turning every now and again. And once you can see it's kind of got, I wouldn't say a caramelized edge, but you're getting that slight browning to the edge, then you're good to go for the next bits. Okay, so the chorizo has now started to crisp up. You see there, it's released so much of its oils, and that oil is just going to really help flavour everything else. So if you're using your big prawns, chuck them in now, and then just get those cooking until they're nicely kind of reddened. You're getting a little bit of kind of like give to them, only a little bit, because you want them nearly done before you put the rest of the seafood in, because anything like squid and the smaller prawns, that is not going to take long. So we'll just keep those turning just for a minute or two. Lovely, so they've now fully firmed up a bit. Now we can chuck the rest of that seafood in. We're not going to cook this for very long, probably 3 minutes. That should do it. All you're looking for, the prawns to turn a nice shade of pink, give a resistance when you push them. The squid will kind of stop being slightly opaque and will go a bit more, kind of plump up a bit. And those scallops, delicious. And all the time they're soaking up all of that stuff in the chorizo. So just whack them in, get them cooking. All done there. So now we're going to turn that off. And when you watch or read a lot of paella recipes, everything is done kind of in the pan, it all goes in. I'm not doing it that way, and for a very good reason. That seafood there is cooked and it's spot on. If I start, for me, putting the rice in, loads of stock in, especially with things like squid, it's going to overdo. So all we're going to do now is actually take all of this out of the pan, but leave all that liquid behind. So you want to kind of use a spatula or a slotted spoon. You'll get some liquid come out, of course you will, but the rest of it is just going to stay in there, and that's going to add so much flavour. So we're just going to keep popping these out until we've got a nice empty pan, and that way later on we can put that seafood back in at the end and it is cooked perfectly. So I'll crack on. Great, so there we go, that's all out now, and that's just going to sit on the side and wait till we're ready for it. But as you can see, we've got that lovely kind of juices all in the bottom of the pan, and that's going to add huge amounts of flavour to this. So all we're going to do now is the usual. We're going to sweat off our onions. I'm just going to pop them in there on a low heat, just keep them going until they're just nice and softened. Probably going to take you about 8 minutes or so on a really low heat. Okay, so the onion's sweated down now. Pop in that garlic and the red pepper. And we're just going to give that about 3 minutes. Again, low heat, soften that garlic down, get that red pepper started. Always make sure, because you're going to get with that seafood and some of the kind of juices that have come out of it, you will get bits that stick to the bottom. Just keep scraping them up, because that's just going to, everything here is just going to add and add and add. It's awesome. Okay, so now that's softened, I'm just going to turn it up fractionally, and then we're going to pop our rice in. So here you want 300 grams of paella rice. You're just going to pop that in. And then you're going to add in some saffron. Now, for me, this is what makes it that kind of more northern Spain and more Catalan, you know, that lovely vibrant yellow. And the saffron is absolutely amazing for this. So you want a good pinch of saffron. Kind of hard. Everyone's got different sized fingers. So what's a pinch? I'm saying probably for this about 20 or so strands. Yeah, about 20. A little bit more in there. There we go. Yeah, that's probably about 20, 24 strands. And that should do it. You go too much, you're going to get this very irony taste that's going to be a bit too much on the palate. But all you're going to do now is just keep stirring that around, and any liquid on the bottom, that rice is going to kind of absorb, and you're waiting until it's kind of fried off a little and it's gone more translucent around the edges. Not much, probably again, everything's sort of done in a couple of minutes really. 2 minutes should do this. Just the edges then of that rice, you'll see it's just gone slightly translucent around the edges. That's perfect. I'll be honest with you, I don't know why I do it. I just always have with risottos, with paellas. I've always done it and it's always worked better for me. Otherwise, for some reason, it always comes through a little bit too kind of stodgy, and it doesn't, you don't get those individual grains. It seems kind of frying it off a little bit first just helps the rice hold together. So now we're going to pop in stock. I'm going to use chicken stock. I'm going to use 800 ml here. Now, if you want your paella to be 100% seafood, of course, you can use seafood stock in here. And instead of the chorizo, all I'd say is when you're cooking that seafood, just put about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of kind of smoked paprika in there, and maybe a little bit more garlic, and that will really kind of help bring that flavour in without using the meat. But the reason I'm using chicken stock here is it's just that little bit lighter on flavour than that fish stock. Often fish stock can be very overpowering, which is wonderful if you just want a seafood kind of paella. But if you want to taste all of those other bits like the chorizo and stuff like that, the chicken stock kind of is a little bit more blended and just works really well. So I better pop the other bit in. So there we go. That's all nicely in there. What we're going to do, bring that up to a simmer, and then you got a choice. Traditionally, paella, outside, massive dish. You don't have lids, so you can cook it for ages, and it's wonderful and it works really well. What I love about doing it this way is it quickens it up a bit and I can use less stock. So with 800 ml, I'm only using kind of 2 stock cubes worth. If I was doing this outside in a giant pan, I'm going to be pouring in stock quite a bit every now and again, and you're just going to use quite a lot. So what I'm going to do is, once it's at a simmer, pop the lid on and then just let it go for about 10 minutes. And that's going to kind of steam it through a bit. It will cook it a bit faster. Okay, so that's had 10 minutes now. You'll see there's still a slight layer of liquid there. You just want to give it a little try. Yeah, so that rice is almost cooked. Still a little bit of bite to it there, like a little bit too much bite. But that's the perfect time. I'm going to add in some just frozen green beans, like all chopped up, about 50 grams worth, just because I like a little bit of vegetables in there. I like that little bit of greenery, and I'm going to mix it. Again, not traditional, but I want to get those green beans in and mixed up. And then we're just going to leave that for a couple of minutes, and with the lid off, and what that will do is you'll start to see that liquid will disappear and you'll get these little holes pop up, and you'll just see like a little bubble of liquid out of them. And that will cook those green beans nicely. And they just add a little bit more excitement, a little bit more colour to it. That's great. We're at the right point here. You can see these little bubbles popping up through these holes, and that's kind of your perfect time. You know that that paella is done. All we're going to do now is add in, back in all that seafood and lovely chorizo. Any dribbles of liquid as well, kind of just adds a bit more flavour in there. And I'm going to mix it through. Again, traditionally you would not bother, but that's because you've got all of the meat and etc. cooking in it. But obviously we don't want a pile of it on top. So we're just gonna kind of mix that all together. And this point is great as well, because you'll feel there'll probably be some stuff stuck to the bottom of the pan. Again, not bothered by that. That just adds this kind of nice, almost thick layer at the bottom. And it's just, oh, that stuff is gorgeous. So I might scrape a bit of it here and there. Just get it in, get all of that nicely mixed around. And then we're just going to grab those extra prawns we had and make a nice little pattern of them on for the top. Kind of has a little bit of a 70s kind of look to it, but I kind of like that. So those are all there. And then all I'm going to do now, lovely, for the last minute or so, pop that lid on top. Any residual stuff there is going to be soaked in, and it's going to create that little bit of steam that will help heat those prawns through. So give that 1 minute, I think we'd be good. Oh, perfect. So there we go, that last minute of steaming will just kind of heated all of that seafood through without cooking it anymore, so it's all still perfectly cooked. Now we can just flick that off, grab the whole pan onto a mat, middle of the table, let everyone dig in. It is a lovely, lovely kind of get together meal, this one. So there it is. What more can I say? That is my semi-seafood paella. Like I said, many ways you can make it just seafood, but I absolutely adore it like this. So I hope you give this one a go. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.